Hey YouTube, it's EpicMagician34 with the Ladies Night Volume 2, and this time around we're going to be looking at an oldie but a goodie, Harpie Ladies. And this is going to be a really cool spin on Harpies that you may not have seen. Works better than you think. This is also a budget deck, which is what's really cool about it. There's very little foil in the main deck alone, and you can build a good extra deck on a budget too. But with a little extra money, you can definitely squeeze some more power out of that extra deck. We're running 3 copies of Harpie Lady. That's right, not Harpie Lady 1 or 2 or even 3. We're running the original, normal monster, Harpie Lady. Whether you have the original art or the newer edited art, doesn't matter. It's a wind 4-star, 1300, 1400 winged beast. And we're running it, well, for reasons you'll find out in a little bit. But one of the cool things about this is, as long as the field spell isn't in play, that is, Harpie's Hunting Ground isn't on the field, she can actually scoot under bottomless, which is a plus. And the difference between a 1600 and a 1300, between her and Harpie Lady number 1, actually isn't that big a difference in this environment anyway. So, we are running 3 of the original, which I thought is a cool spin, because almost nobody ever does that. We're also running 3 copies of Harpie Queen to go, obviously, search out the field spell, but we're also using it because it's a bigger, badder beat stick than the original. And she can also be used to activate things that need a Harpie on the field, because she counts as Harpie Lady while she's in play. We are running 1 copy of Harpie Lady's Sisters, which pretty much tells you we're also running Elegant Egotist. It's just a nice additional beat stick that's a little bit bigger than the Harpie Ladies. And you can definitely summon it. We're running 2 copies of Harpie's Pet Baby Dragon. If you need some of the effects on these, because they are kind of old and obscure, that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Wiki's for. 3 copies of Flying Kamakiri number 1. This is pretty much just to tutor out Harpie Lady, because you really need to get her quickly. Even if she doesn't live long on the field, the important thing is to get her cycling between your field or grave. And of course they can't be bottomless if they get searched out by Kamakiri, because it'll be damage step. But you can also use this guy to sneak your Pet Baby Dragon on the field and start squeezing effects out of it. So, is that? Summoner Monk, and there are some 4-star tuners in this deck, but also he's a good way to fetch your Harpie Ladies once again. And you got plenty of spells in this deck. We're running 2 copies of Mist Valley Soldier. He's your 4-star tuner of choice. He's a decent beat stick, he has a good effect, and in addition to all this, he's also a winged beast, so he plays well with Icarus Attack, which is in the deck. Nothing not to like about him here. Alright, we do have a little tuner that we can search out and recruit, basically the Flying Kamakiri number 1. And this is my wind tuner of choice. It's Delta Flyer. Okay, he's not a winged beast, but he can change his level, so he's either 3 stars or 4 stars, your call. And that's pretty much what makes him awesome, is that he gives you such a wide range of things you can potentially sink into. And of course, once again, you don't have to worry about bottomless with this guy if you're searching him off the Kamakiri. We're also running Gale the Whirlwind. Okay, he's not wind, so you can't search him with the Kamakiri. But he has things, which is good, because you don't have a lot of really, really big monsters without sinking in this deck. And on top of it, he's still a winged beast, so you can still Icarus with him. Okay, here's one of the few foil cards in the deck, but he's still very easy to get. And that's Elector, Sovereign of Birds. If you don't know what he does, look him up. He's really awesome. He can be an answer to a lot of threats, and he comes out surprisingly easily against most opponents. Very good for this deck, and I mean, you do have the option to just normal summon him as well. So, pretty easy to get on the field overall. The only real big monster in the deck, quote-unquote, that isn't a synchro. Okay, and we are running 2 copies of DD Crow. You can set it for Icarus and whatnot, but really the removal in the grave is messing with your opponent, and messing with the opponent is a lot of what you're going to do in this deck. So, these guys are great in the new meta. Very good, and they're a perfect fit. Alright, Monster Reborn. We are running 2 copies of Elegant Egotist, because we've got the 3 Harpie Queens and the 3 Harpie Ladies, all of whom play well with this card. It's a great way to swarm the field, get stuff going. And the reason we're running the normal Harpie Lady is because we're running Symbols of Duty. It's actually, if you count through the deck how many cards can essentially turn into a Harpie Lady and therefore represent that normal Harpie Lady, you actually have a pretty impressive number of monsters that you can, and cards that turn into the Harpie Lady, which you can then Symbols of Duty into all kinds of stuff. And if you play Flying Kamakiri well, you can very early turn it into a Harpie Lady that you sort of float out of your opponent's battle phase, Symbols of Duty it, and then you still have your normal summon, so you can sync if you need to. But of course you can also just reanimate your synchros that may have died, or your opponent's. Really good card for this deck. And of course it plays well with the Elegant Egotist. Harpie, Elegant Egotist, and Symbols of Duty, and so on. Dark Hole, because you're probably going to need some field control in this deck. And we are running 2 MSTs. We want to get rid of their spells and traps, and destroy their spell trap destruction, for that matter. All of it. I mean, even though we do have Harpie's Hunting Ground, which is one of our primary ways of destroying spells and traps, these are good backup, and they can prevent your opponent from chaining stuff like Dust Tornado to destroy your Hunting Ground, which is obviously bad. Played correctly, it works well. We are running 1 copy of Terraforming. Yes, the Harpie Queens do search out the Hunting Ground, but that means you lose the Harpie Queen. This is just one more way you can get that really important Hunting Ground early, and thin your deck out and whatnot, and you can save your Queen to possibly summon with the Hunting Ground to get that MST effect. So we do run 1 copy of Terraforming. This deck wants to play quickly so that it can get consistent. Consistent plays are what this deck is about. 3 copies of Harpie's Hunting Ground gives you that nice boost to all your winged beasts, and in addition, of course, the primary thing that's so cool about it is anytime a Harpie Lady is normal or special summoned, you can destroy a spell or trap on the field, which is pretty awesome. Alright, onto the traps. Torrential Tribute. 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole. Call of the Haunted. Reanimation's pretty crucial in this deck. And speaking of reanimation, Hysteric Party. This thing can easily just sweep your opponent if you can get their field clean. And it can provide you lots of things to sync with too. So, powerhouse on that one. Doesn't even cost you life points. And we're running 2 copies of Icarus Attack. And that's your main board. Now the extra deck, really you should just invest in an extra deck and the critical pieces of an extra deck, because they apply to so many decks. Stardust Dragon. There's not really a super cheap, super available version of him out right now. The tin promo is probably the cheapest one. But what's cool about it is he's so common, he's easy to get, and a small investment for a budget player, I'd call Stardust Dragon a small investment, can end up being really good in the long run, because it belongs in virtually every extra deck for virtually every deck that wants to sync. And the same can be applied to, say, Goyo Guardian and Bryanak, who, while they're more expensive, a little harder to get, it's a great investment, they'll always be useful. So, what you can get out of this for your budget deck is a good idea. Because once again, it's not just for this deck, it's for a bunch of decks. I'm running 2 copies of Stardust. Obviously you don't need the Ghost Rare. Scrap Dragon. Colossal Fighter. And if you're missing components, this is a great card that's easy to get that you can run 2 of and not be ashamed. It's a good 8-star target. Infernity Doom Dragon. Thought Ruler Arcfiend, he's really cheap right now. Still a great 8-star target. Red Dragon Arcfiend, similar story. I run 2 copies of Black Rose, but if you're having trouble filling in gaps in this deck, a 3rd Black Rose is acceptable, and even Scrap Arcfiend can work. But really 2 is all I decided that you really need. You could even run 1 Black Rose in theory. 1 copy of Armor Master, because you do have a lot of 4-star things, so it's very easy to sync with Gale to make this guy. 1 copy of Urbellum, easy guy to get. 1 copy of Goyo. 1 copy of Bryanak. 1 copy of Magical Android. And finally 1 copy of Ally of Justice Cataster. That's the preferred extra deck, but fill it in with what you can get. That's the main deck, that's the extra deck. And there you go, budget Harpies. And until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, and enjoy.